Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is the exact federal courtroom testimony from the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported by Inner City Press. The courtroom fell silent as 50 Cent, known for his sharp tongue and straightforward attitude, took the stand in what became the most unexpected testimony of the Diddy trial. For years, he had mocked Diddy online with cryptic jokes and bold claims, but no one expected him to testify under oath. As federal prosecutors investigated a series of trafficking and misconduct charges, 50 Cent revealed aspects of a lifestyle allegedly kept secret. He didn't just make accusations. He presented a list of names and moments, highlighting what many in the industry already suspected. The judge cautioned the audience to remain calm, but the atmosphere shifted as 50 Cent's testimony named people involved and changed the narrative. The feud between 50 Cent and Diddy didn't begin in court. It started with rumors, interviews, and viral social media posts. For years, 50 Cent was the only rapper openly criticizing Diddy's behavior, often mixing humor with serious implications. In 2014, 50 Cent posted a meme implying that Diddy and Rick Ross had a closer relationship than publicly known. It made headlines, but many dismissed it as trolling. The jabs continued. In 2018, on the Breakfast Club radio show, 50 Cent shared an experience where Diddy invited him shopping and offered to pay, which 50 found unusual for two grown men. Though said humorously, the implication hinted at something more private in Diddy's life. By 2022, as lawsuits against Diddy emerged with multiple accusers, 50 Cent's tone changed. He reposted headlines and wrote "Told you," suggesting the allegations confirmed what he had long hinted at. Fans began to take him seriously, not as a troll, but as someone who had been warning the public. Under oath, 50 Cent was called as a surprise witness by the prosecution to share what he knew from industry events, private meetings, and his own experiences with Diddy. His goal was to give the jury insight into the man behind the public persona. According to insiders, he presented a list not only of incidents, but also of names, artists, collaborators, and alleged victims. He started with someone many already suspected had a complicated relationship with Diddy, Usher. Cent testified that Usher had lived with Diddy at a young age, raising questions about that time. He clarified that Usher never spoke to him directly about it, but that the arrangement, known as Flavor Camp, was discussed among insiders. Usher was 14, and Diddy was an adult at the time, prompting speculation about the situation. He referenced a 2016 Howard Stern interview where Usher, then an adult, appeared uncomfortable discussing the topic. 50 Cent said Usher seemed to have something he wanted to say, but was silenced by Diddy's influence. Cent also described an event where he saw Diddy and Usher interact years later, noting a strange tension, as if Usher was keeping his distance, not simply out of busyness, but due to past issues. When asked if he had proof such as recordings or witness statements, 50 Cent replied that the industry rarely leaves a paper trail. It's based on backstage whispers and what happens off camera. According to him, many know the truth, but are afraid to speak out. Then, unexpectedly, 50 Cent produced a folded sheet of paper from his jacket pocket. He called it a truth list, naming people he believed had been involved because the issue wasn't just about Diddy's personal behavior, but how he allegedly used his power to influence young stars. The first name was Usher Raymond, portrayed as young and vulnerable, with Diddy grooming him. The courtroom gasped, and the judge reminded everyone to remain silent. After Usher, 50 Cent mentioned another individual recently caught on camera, appearing uncomfortable, rapper Fabulous. On the Drink Champs podcast, Diddy had repeatedly asked why Fabulous never partied with him. Fabulous replied simply that they never really partied, while Diddy smiled. Nervously, he looked away in court. He described what he saw behind the scenes. "I was there for that Drink Champs episode," he said. "I watched Fab shrink in his chair when Diddy started pressing him. That wasn't a joke. That was real fear." He then recalled a private industry event where Diddy reportedly cornered Fabulous and made another advance. I remember Fab telling someone, "Man, I just want to go home." And Diddy wasn't letting him. Puff kept saying, "Come on, I got a room upstairs, just chill." Fab slipped out the back door. This matched Fabulous's own story, which he once shared on Instagram about pretending to go to the bathroom, but actually sneaking out of a Diddy party at 7 a.m. He never wanted to be there. He told the court he was there only because of pressure. That's what Puff does. He pressures. The jury was stunned when he added that he personally warned younger rappers to avoid being alone with Diddy. "I told them, don't take gifts, don't go to his house, and don't ever agree to any party after the party. That's when things get dark." But it was what he said next that had the courtroom buzzing. There's a whole group of us, artists, bodyguards, assistants, who all have stories, but Puff's got lawyers, power, and fear on his side. That's why I'm here to say it plainly. With just 3 names mentioned so far, everyone knew. More was coming. Prosecutors asked, "Are you willing to name everyone on that list?" He looked straight at Diddy and said, "Oh yeah, this is just the warm-up." As the courtroom leaned in, he shifted focus to one of the most surprising names on his list, Justin Bieber. "Now this one's going to hurt some of y'all," he said, "because people still see Justin like that little kid with the bowl cut, but let me tell you, Puff had him around when he was fresh in the game, and it didn't sit right with a lot of them." He recalled an infamous clip from years earlier where Diddy was seen saying on video, "I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me." The mogul made it sound playful. "We're going to go full buck, full crazy." But under oath, he claimed industry insiders always knew what that really meant. Nobody's talking about mentoring when it's 2 a.m. in Miami and the kid's 15 years old. Prosecutors asked what he believed happened during that time. He didn't give graphic details, but made his point clear. "I'm not saying something happened I saw with my own eyes, but I heard from people close to Justin, people in the camp who were scared to talk. That 48 hours. It wasn't music lessons, it wasn't songwriting. They said it was exposure to things no teenage boy should see." He went on to say, Bieber later distanced himself from Diddy entirely. When asked in an interview whether he'd let his own kid go to Flavor Camp, Bieber laughed nervously and said, "Hell no." He told the court that wasn't a joke. That was him remembering. He described Bieber's later breakdowns, public meltdowns, and deep emotional trauma as partly stemming from the dark side of fame. A darkness he said Puff orchestrated. Puff finds them young, promises them the world, then controls them with gifts and silence, he said. And the silence is loud. When asked if Bieber ever spoke out publicly, he admitted, "No, not publicly, but he spoke volumes by what he didn't say, by what he avoided, by how quickly he moved away from Puff once he had the chance." As the jury processed the implications, Diddy reportedly looked down at the table, expressionless. But the courtroom wasn't done. He was just getting to the part of the list that included people even closer to the streets. And the secrets only he had the courage to speak. The courtroom murmured when he paused and looked directly at Diddy before speaking again. "Now this. Next one," he said. "This isn't just hearsay. I got it straight from the man who saw it himself." The room fell silent as he continued. "I'm talking about my guy John Deal." John Deal, Diddy's longtime bodyguard, had spoken before in interviews, but now his story was being echoed under oath. He recounted John's claim about a bizarre shopping trip to an adult bookstore. John said Puff was in there buying all kinds of toys, stuff you don't even want to picture, racks of stuff, and Gene, being security, had to carry the bag. But it was what happened afterward that made the story unforgettable. They flew out for a show in North Carolina. He testified Gene said Puff and Ja Rule went into a private suite. Gene was told to stand guard at the door. A few minutes later, Ja Rule himself opened the door, stuck his head out, and said to Gene, "Yo, you might not want to come in here. It's a little freaky in here tonight." The courtroom tensed. Prosecutors leaned in. "What was the implication of that?" they asked. He didn't mince words. He didn't mean candles and bubble baths. He meant whatever was going on in that room. Wasn't just two guys chilling. When asked why Ja Rule never spoke about the incident, Incident 50 shrugged and said, "That's what I've been saying for years. Nobody wanted to say anything until now, but I'm here now and I'm saying it." He emphasized that his intention wasn't to humiliate people, but to expose a pattern. He explained that this isn't about sexuality. It's about coercion, about people using their power to do what they want, when they want, to whomever they want. It's not about what two adults do. It's about what one powerful man does to everyone around him. He said the Ja Rule incident was just one of many that happened behind closed doors, silenced by fame and non-disclosure agreements. But the damage remained. Ja never spoke publicly, but he hasn't been the same since, just like many others he hasn't even mentioned yet. Next on the list was a newer artist, Osiris. 50 told the court he saw warning signs with Osiris long before the public did. This young artist became famous quickly with one hit. Then Puff came around and the boy started changing. He said, "Same playbook." According to 50, Diddy attracted Osiris with luxury trips, mentorship promises, and a rumored getaway to Jamaica. People think it was just a vacation, but 50 said, Puff doesn't take people anywhere without expecting something in return. He recalled how social media reacted when Osiris posted pictures from Jamaica at the same time Diddy was there. Same hotel, same beaches, same week. Osiris tried to laugh it off, saying he went with his girlfriend, but it didn't seem right to those familiar with the industry. Then came an Instagram live meltdown, where Osiris was crying and ranting about feeling isolated in the industry, hinting that nobody knows what really happens. 50 played a clip of the video for the court, showing the young artist breaking down, with no one to help him. He explained that's what happens when Puff discards someone. 50 linked this emotional fallout to Diddy's pattern. Find young talent, overwhelm them with attention, trips, and gifts. Then when they start struggling, Puff walks away unscathed. Prosecutors asked if Osiris made specific accusations. 50 said, not directly, but the signs were clear. He said people break down when they're trapped in situations they can't explain. As the court considered another name, 50 ended this part with a reminder of how many young black artists have experienced breakdowns. He said this isn't a coincidence, but a system, with Puff at the center. When 50 brought up the next name, the room grew tense. "Let's talk about Usher," he said plainly. This one has been in people's minds for years, but no one spoke about it openly. He began by recalling a now well-known clip of Usher talking about living with Diddy as a teenager. Usher was 14 years old, 50 said, and Puff had him at what they called flavor camp. But 50 asked, what kind of grown man invites a teenage boy to live with him like that? Quoting Usher, he said they used to wake up and fight over breakfast cereal as kids. 50 stared at the jury and said, no one asked why these grown men were living in the same house, or why Usher seemed nervous and laughed when he said it. The court then heard a clip of Diddy admitting during a live stream, "Me and Usher used to sleep together," followed by an awkward pause and "no homo." That moment was intended to be a joke, but 50 said it wasn't funny. It was a slip-up. He continued, explaining that the situation with Usher always made people in the industry uncomfortable, not because of sexual orientation, but because Usher was a child and everyone knew Puff held power. If Puff wanted you around, you didn't say no. He also noted how Usher changed after that early experience. He asked if it was a coincidence that Usher has always been tight-lipped about that part of his life. He argued that it's not just trauma from the industry, but from what Usher saw and experienced. 50 added that to this day, Usher never truly denies the rumors. He skirts around them, laughs, shrugs, and moves on. That's not someone comfortable. That's someone scared. As he closed this part of his testimony, 50 said something that stayed with everyone. Sometimes it's not about what people say, but what they never say. Next came two surprising names, Fabulous and Kevin Hart. You might think they have nothing to do with this, 50 told the court. But he saw something and knows what they saw. He mentioned a strange Drink Champs interview where Diddy flirted with Fabulous on air, asking why they never partied together. Fabulous looked shaken, not smiling or joking, but like he was reminded of something. Then came the infamous Kevin Hart livestream moment where Diddy jokingly said he used to wake up with Usher and